Welcome to East Coast DNA. This is
Darcy.
And I'm Andrew. We're brothers from Nova Scotia. And this podcast is covering East Coast musicians, originally starting to be the re-emergence of live music since COVID started. Now, since COVID restrictions were lifting, I guess.
Yes.
And it's wide open. It's wide open.
Yeah.
Last week we had a super episode with nominees for Rock Performance of the Year. Correct? That's what it was.
Recording.
Rock Recording of the Year.
Same difference at this point.
Yeah, I think it's the same. And we released a 2-hour episode. This week we're cutting it up and we're going Monday to Friday. So what's the theme this week, Darcy?
Originally we were reaching out to entertainers of the year, but a couple things. One, we quickly realized that as we were gathering notes for some of the interviews, that most of the entertainers of the year are in other categories as well, which made it a little interesting. And on top of that, the Hurricane Fiona that ripped through the East Coast and just destroyed everything.
When was that? Was that recent?
Yeah, it was maybe you were sleeping.
Yeah, I think I got that.
That was when I was doing interviews, and then I woke you up right when the power came back on.
When did the hurricane happen?
Couple.
While you were sleeping.
Yes. So that kind of put a little bit of a pause on some of the little spree of interviews that I was doing for the East, but we do have another set of 5. And as you and I had discussed, we figured instead of releasing another 2-hour episode, maybe this one would break up a little bit, and with everybody doing cleanup or resting and recovering a little bit from all of the cleanup and devastation that happened in the region, we thought maybe it might be a little bit of a distraction for people, some extra entertainment content. You know, that's when I listen to podcasts the most, is if I'm out cleaning brush or burning or doing laundry, dishes, all of the fun stuff that everyone fell behind on when they had no power for the better part or more than a week in some cases.
Yeah, I still got friends that still have no power and they don't think it's coming back till Tuesday, so they'll be it's almost 10 days now, so they're going to be like almost 2 weeks before they get power back.
Yeah, it's quite
That would stink. And for our Thursday episode, we have Adam Warren, aka Waants.
So you were up for, well, Entertainer of the Year is what I reached out to you for, because I was kind of going through the list. But,
that and what, Electronic Artist of the Year,
and
Songwriter of the Year. Yeah,
you had quite a few there this year. And
yeah, I was very surprised.
Yeah, so when I first met you, which was almost a year ago, I guess I walked up to you at the Seahorse or something, I think. But I was aware of you through Gavin. Well, yeah, actually I have your
zombies, look at that.
Yeah. It's got a horrible little note on there from Gavin for me. I asked for a signature and he wrote a little sentence right across the cover for me. So
of course, it's
a personal story, so I'll just leave that one aside. It's not podcast material. Yeah, I'll have to get your signature on there at some point. That's not something I carry around too often.
That's so cool. Do you have that record? That's awesome.
Well, yeah, and I do have your CD from when you were here.
Oh, nice.
At the Commune at the time, I guess.
That was so. Did that place close?
The Commune is basically Derek took the name with him and is looking at doing something else with it.
Okay.
Shoebox, that was the studio above, has opened Shoebox Cantina where the Commune was. So there's essentially it's the same venue essentially, but I believe that the Commune's going to resurface at some point in the future.
Oh,
just
cool.
Not sure.
I had a lot of fun performing there. They were they treated me very well. That was a great night.
Well, Pictou County's always been pretty supportive of local artists, but I think the Commune was good because it was bringing in some of the people from the city and some different names and
lots of different stuff too.
Yeah, and a few different people that for further outside the province and stuff have stopped through and stuff. So it's kind of cool. We don't always have the biggest turnout because of the population size and things like COVID and.
Of course. Well, I think at that time it was still capped, like you had to be seated at your table. And
yeah, exactly.
There's still quite a few restrictions in place.
Yeah. So there's a lot of potential there in the future. And we have a few other venues down along. We talked about that on the podcast a couple of times too. Like the Spot is just a couple doors down. Glasgow Square. Glasgow Square is most known probably for the Jubilee around the province, but they host smaller shows indoors. And they had a series earlier this year. It was like a little green room series out in the back. And they had a few. Matt Steele was there. You actually
doing like acoustic kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
He we did a song together last summer. He sent me a track to add bass and drums to, and I'm just so pleased with how well it's been doing. Like it got so well received this summer.
Yeah, I bought that on Bandcamp. I'm a Matt Steele fan as well. And then I had the remix. But the instrumental that you had for that song that you did with him, I can't listen to that without the lyrics on it.
Oh, it's funny.
I don't know what it is. There's something about like the frequency or something in it. I get
Oh, really? Like it's grating or something?
No, not grating even. It's not that, because I probably would keep that from you because it's a little offensive. But there's something like I get like anxiety or something listening to it.
Oh, hilarious.
Without any lyrics. Maybe it's because I knew the full version first and I'm waiting for the lyrics to drop in or something.
Yeah, it's just like unsettling or something.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting that he released the instrumental. I've seen people do that. Usually that's like more of like a producer-y thing, right? People will drop a track or a beat tape or kind of thing. But I'm assuming it was maybe something to do with streaming, like trying to just like game it a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I know Matt from when he was on the podcast, and he seems to like little things like that anyway. As a fan, same way that the podcast was created. Like when you're a fan of something, I'm sure yourself as a musician, where you're a fan of other musicians.
I'm a fan of a lot of people.
Yeah, it kind of resonates in what you're doing too.
Absolutely.
But that actually was one thing I did want to ask you too.
What's that?
With the Waants album that I bought, you had a lot of different guest artists on there, collaborators on that album. And then now going into this year, you have like your sound specifically works with a lot of different artists, but your new album, like, or your new singles that you've had out this year are with different artists and have a different sound altogether. Like you keep evolving the sound a little bit. Is that?
Yeah, I can't kind of sit still with it, unfortunately, or fortunately, depend. Like I think, it's by design. Like it's part of the project is to be like, which I think is why I kind of fall into a category like electronic music.
Sure.
Because it's all sort of computer, DJ related kind of stuff, right? Whether it's hip hop or pop or even like kind of quirky indie pop. But yeah, I have a lot of interests as a music listener, and I seem to like not really understand genre boundaries very well.
A lot of the Halifax bands, well, probably a lot of people in your circle seem to be in that same position. It doesn't seem like Nova Scotia's really following any genre rules.
Well, I think that's part of like the music industry now anyways, too. Like, especially I've seen in sort of like the not even emerging, but like people who are kind of blowing up, but they're newer in the pop world. They kind of, you can get away with doing anything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot of mixes and it's very, very fluid. You wouldn't really put your top chart hits as one. Even myself, I gravitate towards a lot of the alternative rock.
Gotcha.
And it probably comes from listening to a lot of indie rock growing up, right? Because Halifax always had a vibrant scene. So there was a lot of stuff to influence you as a teenager, but like the Edge radio station used to always have a top 30 that would be on every week. But back in the day when I started listening to that stuff, it was because that station would play Rage Against the Machine or Tool or something. And
of course.
That's what it was, even a throwback at the time because it was a few years old, but I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm not used to hearing that on the radio. But nowadays I still listen to all that alternative radio, can rock stuff, but it's very, very fluid. Like, a punk band's not necessarily like a hardcore punk band. There's pop punk bands. And then there's still hardcore bands that have singles that are coming out that are radio friendly enough that they're making the same chart. So everyone's all fluid, and the Halifax scene reflects it. And you have actually like I said, I know you from Glory Glory originally.
Mm-hmm.
So when would that have been? Early 2000s or?
I mean, yeah, that band started, officially like 2006.
Okay. And then
kind of started jamming like the end of 2005 or something.
So did you get into kind of the producing and stuff because of doing the remixes?
The producing thing was kind of just, it came out of necessity, like doing our first sort of demo tapes, and even our first real record, John Epworth produced. I don't know if you remember John Epworth, but
the name.
But prior to working with him, I produced a demo with someone that we worked with. Like, he had a recording studio out in Bedford, and so he offered to record us for like a very like unbelievably cheap amount of money. So we scraped which was required because we were all dirt poor, like teaching music full time. And so I kind of like, I'd written the songs. I sort of was the band leader, and especially at that time, like I was probably pretty terrible about that stuff. Like, not necessarily my way or the highway, but like just very like annoyingly like sure of what I wanted.
Yeah.
But you know, Ryan and Gavin were extremely accommodating and great to work with, and so they sort of let me sort of like lead the way on the recording side, and then that sort of pushed me further into that role. Yeah, it was just the band basically, like making those records. I ended up being the producer.
And so, aside from going off and doing stuff on your own after that band kind of dissolved,
mm-hmm.
The other, like Gavin does his own stuff that we've talked about on the podcast before too, but who else was in the band?
Ryan Brown is the drummer.
Is he, and he's got another project himself too, right?
He does. Yeah. And actually we still work together, and I still work on music with Gavin. We haven't super recently, but last year we were working on a couple songs. But Ryan's got his project called Sunnyside Uppers.
Yes, that's it.
So he had a bit of success with a song we did a couple years ago. He got it on Radio 3, which was awesome. This song called Mary, which is a really fun track. But yeah, they're still working at it, still doing music.
And then when you went off, did you become Waants right away after the band?
Not really. Like, it was, I had a long fallow period in my basement, kind of like hiding out is what it felt like. Yeah, I was pretty broken. Like, you know, it was ultimately kind of my decision to shut the band down, and you know, the guys kind of got it because we'd been at it a long time, and I think we all kind of saw the writing on the wall in the sense of, you know, if you're 10 years in and you haven't reached a certain milestone, you're probably not going to reach it. Just how the music industry works, right? Like you have to be new for people to want to sort of push you a bit further, it seems like.
So did you end up, like all the people that you've been collaborating with on your own recordings, did that come from you producing stuff from other people, or did you end up producing other people after you collaborated with people?
Well, it's sort of both. Like I started working with, the very first like official production job I had was working with, oh my God, my brain does not work. They're not really an active band right now. This is embarrassing. Pretty normal. There we go.
There you go. Okay, yeah.
So they hired me, and we did a 3-song EP, and then I also did like a bonus single later on after that. But that was like my first time working with another band, like actually as sort of like the objective like producer. And I recorded and mixed that record for them, and then Sunday Girl was sort of the next like actual gig as a producer. But then while that stuff was happening, I was making these electronic tracks, and at first I was singing everything and writing stuff, but you know, as I sort of realized what I was doing, like the way the project was taking shape, I was like, oh, I should really start trying to find some other voices to get on here, especially because like singing has never been my strongest suit as a musician. I feel like I love songwriting, I love playing, but like this getting on the microphone is always the hardest for me.
Is that the reason for the auto-tune or like
is
that a tool? Because I from kind of diving into when I met you and looking at your music and then seeing some of the other artists that was doing stuff similar, and like, especially doing this podcast, there's a few people that are using that, but it to me, at this point, it's like using a distortion pedal on your guitar. Like
yeah,
you're
basically.
You're playing with a tool to kind of tweak your sound a little bit.
Totally. And like for live, I think now at this point, I pretty much use it almost all the time.
Yeah.
With the exception of like one or two songs where it doesn't seem to fit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not how they were conceived. But like initially it was just, it was a production choice. The guy that mixed the record, I had put auto-tune on a lead vocal just for the demo.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, this sounds so cool. And it definitely like is a current, or was a current in sort of the indie pop world at that time. Like people were getting more and more into auto-tune. So I was like,
For
well,
sure.
it's kind of a cool thing too. This guy thinks it sounds good. And it definitely, oops, I lost the screen. It definitely just like, for me, it allows me to just like focus on the performance aspect when I'm like doing live stuff. I'm not like, oh, I have to sing perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
It'll just like have a sound.
Yeah. And now, like you said, looking for other voices, I'm aware of Keeper E, and
Mm-hmm.
we've referenced her probably in the earlier episodes of the podcast, but we never did have her on yet.
Oh, okay.
So,
Got to chat with Adele. She's great.
I know the backstory there a little bit. But
yeah, I've known Adele for a long time. You know, I was her drum and guitar teacher when she was in her teens, and I was a younger man.
Mm-hmm.
But she approached me when she was graduating because she was writing an album, basically. She's graduating from the music program at Mount A, and she was asking just for advice about recording studios.
Mm-hmm.
And when she told me the artist that she was like really excited about, and like kind of like who she was sort of aiming not to mimic, because it's not like that, but who's inspiring her.
Sure.
It was like Maggie Rogers and like Sylvan Esso and all this stuff. I'm like, you don't need a recording studio. You need Logic.
Yeah.
And just try to do it yourself. Just see what happens. You know what I mean? And she did that. And I ended up mixing that record for her and doing a bit of production on it, but just like kind of helping out after it was basically done.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
And that's when she jumped on a bunch of my songs. Like she helped me write, she helped me, finish Back to the Beginning, that song from the last record that she's on.
And Gavin did the video for that one, right?
Yes, exactly. I mean, he has done, except for the very most recent video, like he had done all of my music videos so far.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I knew the majority of them anyway, but yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, no, Better Off, I got Joel Jennings, a local, like he does a lot of hip hop stuff.
Yeah.
So I just like wanted to try it out. But I think Gavin and I are going to work on something again soon. We've been talking about it.
That'd be nice to see.
Yeah, I love working with him.
And now, like the other album besides having Adele on it, you had Sorry? Is that
Emily Sorry? Yeah.
And then the new stuff, like you just mentioned, you have more. It's hip hop now. Like the music behind it isn't different necessarily, but all the vocals are hip hop vocals now.
Yeah. So the record's like, or the record, it's like a mixtape. It's an EP. It's whatever. I keep calling it a mix CD to be funny because like we made CDs. But yeah, it's sort of a progression. Like, you know, the first, I think 4 songs on there are like actual like hip hop tracks, or like my version of a hip hop track.
Sure. Yeah.
So there's definitely like pop elements and more electro elements. And those are with Kai and Johan.
And how did you meet up with them? Like I saw them around last year at Music Week, and I saw you there, but I assume you guys were already collaborating at that point because it was just November of last year.
Well, they performed with me last year at Music Week.
Oh, yes, I guess. Yeah, I did see them on stage.
So like, yeah, we were already linked up, but basically I you know, a big part of this project is kind of like keeping an eye on what's going on locally, and beyond locally, but like obviously the local folks are kind of easier to reach.
Yeah.
And trying to make songs with people. Like that last record was such a struggle to get through, making most of those songs on my own, like completely, especially like leaving the band. I had sort of a massive crisis of confidence for a while there. And so it was very challenging to finish anything. And then, so as I'm making new stuff, like I don't want to go down that road again. So I'm very conscious of like if I have a pretty cool instrumental and I'm not immediately inspired to put a vocal on it, I just kind of set it aside, and then I'll think about, who could help me finish this, basically.
That's cool. So being that you do that, I imagine you have a little back catalog of stuff that you can go and pick at if you're looking for inspiration. So do you have anything coming up, or there's probably nobody you could really announce if you don't have anything finalized, but do you have anything as far as plans to release anything in the fall, maybe?
Totally. Yeah. So this mixtape drops October 19th.
Okay.
So,
perfect.
Yeah. A couple weeks. So I'm trying to get a video together for the leads, or like not the lead single. I guess the lead single was adding up, but the focus track for the actual release. And that's a song with Keeper E again.
Awesome.
Yeah. She helped me with
really
some lyrics on this one, and sang all the vocals. It's kind of like a house pop song.
And so collaborating with all those people, and especially where it's all a lot of new material, and you're up for all of these awards this year, and we had COVID for the first part of the year. I mean, we're still dealing with the hurricane stuff right now as that's recording. So, I mean, who knows how that's going to impact things the next few weeks. But
yeah, of course,
with everything that's been a barrier over the last year, how have you been doing for live performances? I know, like, I had seen you myself down here, and I saw some of your tour posters. You had the kind of the Stranger Things kind of vibe to it. Like,
for my Waants and Friends show in Halifax. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like, that is the concept. Like, I'd love to be able to do that, like, more often.
Yeah.
Further on down the road, you know what I mean, with more and more people, because I've at this point, I've got, between the remixes and features, there's a lot of people that I can sort of call on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that'd be exciting with restrictions lifting a little bit. Hopefully we don't need to put them back in place. Things get better.
Yeah,
we should be able to have bigger and bigger crowds.
I mean, well, whatever. This is maybe a political thing, but like, I would be really surprised if we got back to restrictions. It seems like it's so like unlikely, you know?
Yeah. Well, from a political point of view, I mean, I'm not necessarily towing the same line as everyone else myself either, but from a political point of view, I can't really see the government wanting to take on all the people that were fed up from 2 to 3 years of restrictions.
That's the thing. It's like, there'd be such an outcry, you know,
especially since they eventually have to get elected again too. So, I mean, that's their job.
And I don't know what to think about it at this point.
Well, how do you find smaller crowds? Like,
in terms of performing and stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of used to smaller crowds. Like a big crowd is a rarity in my career. Like, with Glory or with Waants. Like, the shows have been pretty well attended. Like the show I did at the Marquee last year in April, there was about 150 people there. We did half the Marquee.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like the big empty room. It was like half the room, and
that's cool.
Great. Still it's hard to make any money that way.
Yeah, it would be.
Right. But I don't know. I feel like everyone's kind of been struggling to make much money with live performance, at least locally.
Sure. You know? Yeah. Everybody's in the same boat. Yeah, that's for sure. There has to be a passion to keep up with it at all. Really.
Well, and like
it's been a struggle.
There was lots of funding there for this stuff for a minute, and it seems like that stuff's maybe starting to go away.
Yeah.
A little bit. But hopefully, you know, audiences will come back. One thing I'm thinking locally here is like, I really hope that we can start sort of nurturing a younger audience to like go to shows, you know, like developing that like college crowd where they would have gone through high school, where there would be very little live performance, you know what I mean? And things are already swinging that way anyways.
Yeah, we talked about that here at probably the beginning of the summer on one of the podcast episodes. Young guy from Pictou started rapping.
Oh, okay.
And through an all ages show at Glasgow Square, and with some other local people and some people from the city. And there's about half a dozen artists on the bill, and it was 200 capacity, and it sold out in like 3 or 4 days.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, and they're all new up and like some of them, I found recordings for most of them, but I mean, some of them are just like their own self-release SoundCloud stuff and things like that. So like they are just most of them starting off. Some of them are slightly established or have a few things out there now and have a little bit of an audience, but it was mostly a younger teenage audience that hasn't really, like 2 years of restrictions. If you're 16, that means you've never gone to something like that.
Show.
Yeah.
Or your experience would be very strange because it would be like a seated only. Like
exactly.
Very, I don't know.
So it was exciting to see it, and kind of with that genre fluidity, there has to be a few singles from the East Coast scene that are getting into their heads. Like those were primarily local artists. I'm sure some of it was that they were fans of specific people or they knew them, but some of it was just to get out to a live show, and they all like that. And that's not something that we would typically have here as a hip hop festival.
So was it it was a whole hip hop festival?
It was like a whole evening with all the different bands back to back. So like, it was like I said, about a half dozen
That's awesome.
artists on one bill. So yeah, it was real cool, different type event. But to your point, where you're working with so many different artists, if it's hypothetically, if you did something similar and had a show in the city with yourself and all of these artists on the same bill, an all ages show could be getting those people that are going to be turning 19, 20 the next couple of years too. So especially since they don't have the experience of they didn't go to the concerts on the hill back in the day.
No, of course.
Because they were in diapers. So
yeah, it's a different culture around music now, right?
Yeah. Even, well, that's one thing I wanted to mention too. Like with some of your recordings when I was first getting into your music, that there's a few different themes around being a father and your daughter and myself having I have 2 daughters, but I have, well, there you go. So mine are a little bit older now. But yeah, my youngest, I see that with her, like, I'm assuming she remembers things, but then realizing that I'm old enough now that there's no way she remembers that. It was before she was around. So she's not, I've been in a crowd of 50,000 people in Halifax watching Kiss. She's
crazy.
She's never seen something like that to even know that it existed. So it will be interesting to see where we go with that in the future and where the kids are going, like yourself, like having daughters, like what are they going to be interested in? Is that going to influence where you're at?
Yeah, it seems like locally, like there's things that are surefire, like successes, and it's stuff like tribute nights, like when they did the Big Shiny Tunes thing last year, the Marquee. I guess that was a blowout. And then there's lots of sort of events like that, whether they're touring tribute acts or whatever. And then like DJ nights are quite well attended if it's a well-known DJ or if it's like put on by the right promoter. And then live music, it's kind of like the touring bands that like if you have a lot of clout, then people will come see you. But I've been to lots of local shows over the last couple of years that are not as well attended. In terms of like the band scene or like the live music scene.
And is there plans for yourself then with that kind of mindset? Do you have plans to go outside of our region? You have any?
I hope to make it up to I mean, I've been talking about hoping to make it up to Toronto, Montreal, and all that stuff, for the last little while. I tend to be a little I don't know if it's disorganized or I just like have sort of my finger in so many pies right now.
It keeps you like, I'd love to go to the city all the time. My eldest is up there and there's tons of bands that I like and I know a bunch of the artists now. So, I mean, there's lots of opportunities, but staying in Pictou County is so easy because I have so many things on the go, and especially things like, aside from the last week with the power outage, it's pretty easy to connect with people. Like, I was back up last night and here we are talking to each other already, right?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's a crazy world. I think I'll probably do this a lot through the winter. But
do the podcast from home?
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
But I just finished redoing some of it here too and cleaning up some more space. So
nice. I have to do that
in the future.
Here.
Yeah, you could stop by sometime in the future. Maybe we've got a few people right here because I have the gear and stuff to do it right in the apartment. So that's definitely something I probably will get back into in the spring or something when the traveling gets a little better.
Yeah, of course. Are you going up? Are you going to be up for Music Week in Sydney?
Yeah, actually, we're also up for an award for
Oh, congrats. There you
media
go.
arts.
Nice.
So yeah, we'll be there. I'm actually staying in the hotel of the main event too. So
Okay.
yeah, are you performing? I think you're performing one night there.
I am. Well, yeah. I don't know. It's going to be a little crazy because my showcase is the same night as Keepery and Johan, and I'm supposed to play. Well, I'm a big part of Johan's show now because I'm playing guitars and Moog and
Oh, cool.
DJing and stuff. And then with Keeper, she wanted me to play a bit of guitar, and we have a couple like duets that we can sing together.
Is it the same venue?
Well, no, we're not in the same venue, and then we're almost at the same time. So.
Oh no. Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know. I got to see what I can make happen there. Might be just a little crazy, but
yeah.
I got a lot of shows on Thursday night.
Oh yeah. Oh, Thursday night I'm gonna plan to be there, set up, and then just pack away and just attend shows as much as possible.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And then we may be, well, we're hoping to be set up. There's supposed to be like an artist lounge type area, so we're hoping to be set up somewhere like that.
Oh, just pull people aside.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe instead of doing the full long interviews, we might just grab a few people like we've been doing for these shorter ones and just ask what they're there for and what's coming up, or just some chat ones. The long form interviews are great, but we're going to have to reassess the effort to put them all together.
Of course.
Yeah, there's a lot of editing and rendering and scheduling, and
I know. Any creative project, right? It takes.
Oh, it's great. Like there's no money in it for us at all. Like there's no way to generate any revenue the way we're doing it at the level we're doing it. But it's been a great process, and like it's gotten a little bit of exposure, and it's a good hobby. It definitely was a good COVID thing. I think after Music Week, we're gonna see what worked and what didn't, and what we like and what we didn't like, and like even these smaller ones is a little different than what we did most of the year, but we experimented a lot. Started with no video and then added video, and started with no guests and then added guests.
Okay, gotcha. So do you release the podcast with video?
We do.
Cool.
Originally, it was just YouTube that we had video, but Spotify has a video option now too. So if you watch it in the mobile player, it will come up a little video off to the side.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't listen to podcasts on Spotify at all.
Yeah. We'll see that most people don't, right? But I mostly listen to them on my iPhone myself, but I make one that's on YouTube, so I don't know what that means. Something weird about my creativity anyway.
It's funny, not a YouTuber yet.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to run out of time. It's going to cut the call off.
Oh, yes. I see that.
I'm going to give this to my brother, and I actually have this recording through a little pod track thing that makes audio files for both our lines.
Okay.
So he's going to take this and chop it up and mix it. And we originally were going to put them all together into 2 episodes.
Okay.
Because we have a bi-weekly release schedule. But with the power outage and everything getting diced up and schedules changing, we're not sure. We might do smaller releases like Monday to Friday and just promote them as
just tag me. I'll share it.
Yeah.
For sure.
We'll let you know what's going on probably in a couple days, because I have Mike Ryan later today and Daniel James McFadden on Monday.
Oh, nice.
And we did
his name quite a bit lately.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of good self-promotion, or he has a manager working with him.
Okay.
So maybe they're new. That might be what it is.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it goes, right? Something pops up and you see it all over for a minute.
Yeah. And I mentioned to you that we have Willie and Rich and Adrian.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious. Like, I don't know exactly how I ended up an Entertainer of the Year for an award. I feel like, as a result of the big variety shows, having all the folks, like, I think that feels like something, but for myself, it is like an odd place to be. I've never considered myself an entertainer in that sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
I think that was a big part of our problem with Glory Glory, was that we weren't concerned with entertaining necessarily.
Sure, but the people you're working with now are really working the stage because they have their own solo things too. That it's kind of it comes across like you can tell that everyone has their own thing while they're
Totally
on
was.
stage with
It's
you, but
pushed
it's all
me
blended.
so much. Like performing with Johan and with Kai, especially, like it's just pushed me to a new level.
Yeah, the energy from other people can really help you accelerate your own creativity, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. Same thing with like songwriting, like making songs together.
Yeah.
You know, those folks, sure. Keeper E, like Emily, like those. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, since even doing this, I had kind of an idea where I wanted to get to, but now that I'm doing it and talking to different people, I just have different ideas all the time.
Of course.
So I'm never satisfied with what I'm doing. I always keep wanting to change it. So
that's an artist's life, man.
Yeah, exactly. and not making money. See, I got all the checklist already.
That's the hard thing, you know. Like I basically spent my summer being a tech for the most part, right?
Yeah, well, that's
and stage tech.
I've got a setup right over there that's my job over there.
There you go. You relate. You know, you got to wear a lot of hats in the arts.
Oh yeah.
Right? Unless you get super lucky.
Yes, exactly. It does look like I got less than a minute before it cuts us off regardless. I don't want to cut you mid-sentence. But I will reach out to you before Music Week and find out what you are doing. I'd like to catch some of the performances at the very least.
Oh, rad. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll let you know where I'm set up in case you have anyone you want to send over. You want to pop by yourself to say hi.
Come by with the crew.
Up. Yeah, cool.
Okay.
All right,
thanks
we'll
so
talk
much
soon.
for chatting. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, take care.
Yeah, bye.
And there you go. If you guys want to follow us, we're available many locations. Not very busy in every location, but we're available. And you can find us in the Linktree link down in the show notes or wherever you're watching this or listening to this. If you go below it, there's words. The words will be there, and you can click on the thing, and it'll take
subscribe.
You to the post. Yeah,
subscribe on YouTube or your favorite
Smash the like button. Subscribe.
Yes.
Hit the bell.
Ding. And we do not know what the next one's going to be after the series, so definitely subscribe so you can keep track of it.
Yes. And let us know if you think we should do something different.
Let us know if you find out what we're doing next.
When you find out, let us know so we are in the loop. Anyway, thanks for listening. It's a busy week, and we'll catch you either tomorrow or in a couple weeks or on Monday, depending on what day you listen to this episode, because we're honestly recording the outro and just copy and pasting it all through the week. Keep rocking.
Bye again.
Bye.
Tell me where you at, cause I'm tryna slide through. Got me and my crew.